First up, we have the passive Suspensor Belt. This one is very straightforward, so I'll spend very little time on it. It tells you in the description exactly what it's used for, and there isn't much else you can do with it. It stops fall damage, plain and simple. This is the earliest belt you'll get, and you can have very short-term uses if you get it right away. No matter how high up you are, it will always automatically kick in, as long as you have a little bit of power. Which you will, because you only need a very small amount to use it. Even if you drain your power, it'll recover by the time you hit the ground, just enough to stop that fall damage. Fall damage is healable, so even after you move on to the next belt, this one loses value almost immediately. This belt could be your first, but it doesn't even need to be because you can already get something much more useful in the starting area. Emperor's Wings. This belt allows you to preserve your forward and upward momentum. Build up momentum either by running, jumping, using abilities like Bindu Sprint or the grappling hook, and activate it to preserve that momentum. It'll reduce gravity's pull, reducing being the key word. You'll eventually pick up enough speed where you'll take fall damage. It does prevent you from reaching max speed, so fall damage will be reduced compared to without using it, as long as you activate it before you pick up too much speed. The main appeal of this unique schematic is the power drain. Besides the passive Suspensor Belt, it has the lowest power drain compared to all the others. This unique feature keeps it in play and viable even as you progress into the later tiers. Leap Suspensor Belt is very similar to the Emperor's Wings. It has the same properties going forward and up. It reduces gravity and it allows you to preserve whatever momentum you build up. The difference compared to the Emperor's Wings is this belt has a safety mechanism for downward momentum. Emperor's Wings slows you down, but not enough to stop gravity. This belt limits how fast you can fall downward, allowing you to stop fall damage completely as long as it's activated before you land. You can utilize that safety mechanism as a way to benefit you further in nuanced ways. But the main downside compared to the Emperor's Wings is that it has twice as much power drain. It is difficult to spend a lot of time in the air because of this. At this iron tier, your power pack may not be supportive enough. The planar Suspensor Belt. This belt completely stops your vertical momentum. It almost suspends you in mid-air, but you preserve a small amount of horizontal momentum. Eventually, though, it slows you completely down. It allows you to reposition horizontally while keeping your vertical position static. The repositioning is very sluggish and slow. Unlike the last belt, which prevents fall damage, this just prevents you from falling completely. It's a full stop. The power drain is high, like the Leap Suspensor Belt. This belt advances the shortcomings of the previous belts. It allows you to fully preserve your momentum. It doesn't just reduce gravity, it stops it. Your momentum will continually carry you in the exact direction with no gravitational forces pulling you down. The only thing stopping you is how much power you have. If you jump, you will go straight up until you run out of power. If you launch forward, you will continue in that exact line until you run out of power. This too has a safety mechanism for fall damage, so it won't continue your downward momentum. Rather, it will slow you down and continue at a slowed speed in that direction. It is the most advanced and allows for the most flexibility in movement. The downside is the power drain. It has the highest power drain of all belts. This is basically unusable with anything less than the Mark IV power pack. But with the Mark IV and up, this will be your main belt, most likely. Responsive planar suspensor. This belt is an upgraded version of the planar suspensor. It has the same effects. It stops your vertical momentum completely and allows horizontal repositioning. The difference with this one is in the name. The horizontal repositioning is noticeably more responsive. You can make quick horizontal movements, but it still doesn't allow you to move up or down. Jumping. For the passive belt, there's no effect on jumping. It only kicks in when you pick up enough speed while falling. Emperor's Wings. You preserve your upward momentum, allowing you for a higher jump, and you maintain a slower fall. The Leap Suspensor. It's the same as the Emperor's Wings. You preserve your upward momentum, allowing for a higher jump, and you'll maintain a slow fall. The planar belt stops your vertical momentum, so you don't benefit from a jump, but it will allow you to stop it and reposition horizontally. The responsive belt is the same as the planar. It stops your vertical momentum instantly, but it's much quicker at horizontal movement and control. The full suspensor completely preserves your momentum. Jump and you will continue to float up at that speed until you run out of power. Also, you can reposition yourself horizontally while moving vertically. Falling. The passive belt kicks in automatically when you reach a certain downward speed and completely prevents your fall damage. Emperor's Wings does not slow your fall damage. If activated too late, you will maintain speed. It does, however, limit your fall if activated before downward momentum has already reached damaging speeds. This will limit your fall damage, but you will still take some. Not as much as a straight fall, or if you activated it after falling too fast already. The Leap Suspensor. This is the main difference between the Emperor's Wings and the Leap Suspensor. This has a fall damage safety mechanism. It limits your fall speed so you take no fall damage. As long as you have power and you activate it, you can slow yourself down. The Planar Belt. Because it stops your vertical momentum, it can be used to stop fall damage. The Responsive. It's the same as the planar in this situation. It stops you from falling entirely like the regular one. The Full Suspensor. It has a fall damage safety mechanism like the Leap Suspensor, so it won't preserve your downward momentum exactly, but it will limit your fall speed similar to the Leap Suspensor so that you don't ever have to fall too fast. Launching. For the passive belt, it has no effect on launching other than to save your fall damage. Emperor's Wings. It provides exceptional distance in a standard launching situation. Gravity slowly pulls you down, but it limits how fast you fall, but it requires a focus on the landing or another grapple to continue forward. The Leap Suspensor. It has the same momentum lock as the Emperor's Wings. There is a small nuance here though. Because of the downward momentum prevention, you can use this in ways to get slightly further distances. That is, without using the grapple. The Emperor's Wings advantage is that you could grapple here and continue further because you'd have more power. The planar and the responsive planar belt both stop your vertical momentum, and the horizontal momentum slowly comes to a halt, so it will actively stop your launching abilities. The Full Suspensor. Launching gives you a perfect line, just like jumping at whatever angle you activate it at. The momentum continues in that exact direction until you run out of power. Climbing. The passive, it has no other benefits than to save you if you run out of stamina. Emperor's Wings uses the least amount of power drain of all the belts, which means you have more airtime as long as you have something to grapple to, so that you can continue that upward momentum. The Leap Suspensor Belt is also useful for climbing because it has the same momentum lock as the Emperor's Wings. It makes it equally good for small distances. You have the safety mechanism to protect that fall damage in case you miss your grapple or you run out of stamina, but it lacks in the ability to climb really tall peaks because its significantly higher power drain compared to the EW is quite noticeable. This is typically used with the Power Pack Mark II, and that drains very quickly while trying to climb, so without a better power pack, this one can make climbing the tallest peak somewhat challenging. Responsive. Only benefit here is you'd be able to reposition or hold until your grapple recharges without using that climbing stamina, but no real strong effective ability for climbing. Climbing with the full is more forgiving. You will have much more control in the air, and you will be able to grapple less, because you do it once and that momentum will continue to carry you up as long as you have power. Traversal. For the passive belt, same goes for general traversal. It only saves you from falling. The Emperor's Wings. The extended airtime gives you an exceptional ability to travel. Again, as long as you have things to grapple to. It does take more skill and grapple focus, but provides quality means to move, specifically to stay in the air longer or move in a more upward traversal. The Leap Suspensor. It's very similar to the Emperor's Wings for getting around. It has a very good ability to travel as long as you have the power pack to support it. You have to rely less on the grapple and your skill because of the safety mechanisms that prevent the fall damage. And also, it'll give you slightly more control in mid-air because after certain downward speed, it locks you in so that you can get a linear downward momentum at a helpful angle. The Planar Belt has no benefits to traversal except to prevent that fall damage. The responsive is the same. It won't help for traversal since it's meant to slow your momentum down. The Full Suspensor Belt. The control in any direction you are traveling allows for the most flexibility with traversal, being able to travel vertically without the grapple, or being able to make slight tweaks to your position or direction with no need to re-grapple or land makes traversal really simple with this belt. Here's some things to note about the power drain. So what you see is showing power drain per second. This drains at a constant rate, regardless of how it's used. Direction, different uses, none of that changes anything. There are skills that can change these numbers though, so what you see in my examples may be different from the base numbers. Those skills are Suspensor Efficiency, which provides less power drain, Overcharge, which gives additional max power pool, and Rerouting, which gives faster power regen. On top of this, there is a unique glove schematic you can use to reduce overall power drain, Erie's gloves. There may be other ones too, but this is kind of the beginner one that you would get. I'm not using them in these examples, but it is a unique schematic that you'll definitely want to consider getting for yourself. The passive belt has a power drain of 14 power per second. Essentially, you'll always have it available to use. Even when your power runs out, it'll recharge fast enough for it to kick in before you land. The Emperor's Wings has the same as the passive, 14 power per second. This is what keeps it useful even as you progress into the full Suspensor. With the Mark IV power pack and no buffs, you can stay in the air for extremely long times because of the fast regen on this power pack. With lesser power packs like the Mark II, it becomes even more valuable because that power pool is so much more limited. The Leap Suspensor has a power drain of 27 power per second. This is the main drawback compared to the Emperor's Wings. While you get fall damage protection, the power drain is noticeably more. It makes it a lot more challenging to stay in the air for extended periods of time, specifically with the Mark II power pack, which is the power pack that you'll likely be using when you first get this. It becomes less of an issue as you get into the Mark IV, but its larger power drain at this stage will have you wanting to switch to the full Suspensor belt anyways. Unlike the Emperor's Wings, which has such low power drain, there can be specific use cases later on with that one. But with this, the Leap Suspensor, it becomes irrelevant as soon as you have the full Suspensor belt. The planar belt has a power drain of 27 power per second. So just to give you some specific numbers, that means with no buffs and a Mark II power pack, you can hover for about 7 seconds because the power pool of 200 and a 27 power per second power drain. With the Mark IV, you can hover for almost 15 seconds, having that power pool up at 400. With the responsive planar belt, this has the same power pool as the regular planar, so the exact same time frames would apply. But to add to it a little more, let's say you are using those buffs, you can hover for a solid 20 seconds and beyond if you reach those level 3 skills. That's pretty significant and can be useful in the combat situations that this belt is supposed to be used in. The full Suspensor's belt's only downside is its massive power drain. It has the largest of any of the belts at 57 power per second. This is a lot, but when you advance to the Mark IV power pack, which is when you would probably be using this, it holds up pretty well. The large pool of 400 power makes it so that you can continuously move in any direction for 7 seconds. That's a good bit of time. That can obviously be improved through your skills and buffs, so the larger power drain does not deter you from immediately switching to this, unless you are still rocking that Mark II power pack. For the passive, if you pick this one up early on, it will automatically go on your character. Leave it be until you get the next best thing. The fall damage is easily healed, so the benefits are minimal. It's useful if you have nothing else, but it shouldn't stop you from immediately going after the next best thing. Early on, the best use case for this is everything. Since you can get it immediately, it will help you traverse the starting area with ease, especially combined with your grapple. It doesn't have the safety mechanism for fall damage, but that is made up by its very low power drain. It outperforms the Leap Suspensor in general traversal if you are using the grapple properly because you can stay in the air longer. The fall damage is reduced compared to a regular fall, and if you use the grapple, you can stop your fall entirely. So the downfalls of it not having the fall damage safety mechanism are almost zero with proper skill. This is a high skill belt, and it has higher potential than the Leap Suspensor, but the Leap Suspensor is easier to use. In combat, having the lower power drain is more significant than you realize. Mostly, you'll have low power or completely drained while you're fighting. You aren't always starting with a full power pack, so having to use less power in a fight or to escape makes the Emperor's Wings valuable even into late game. No one is going to catch you, even if they have a full Suspensor belt, if you are skilled with the Emperor's Wings and a grapple. For the Leap Suspensor belt, the best use case for this is if you prefer not to have to worry about fall damage, or if you aren't using a grappling hook. Otherwise, you are better off with the Emperor's Wings. The main argument is that it stops your fall damage. So what? Fall damage can be easily healed or stopped with a grappling hook. The slight benefit that it has to propel you further, simply because you have less downward momentum, is negated by the fact that you could just keep grappling with the Emperor's wings in this scenario. If you couldn't grapple, let's say there's nothing nearby, the added horizontal distance is minimal anyways. You have slightly more control because of the lack of downward pull, but again, that is entirely based on your ability or inability to use the grappling hook. The only real benefit this has is it's easier to craft than the Emperor's wings, because you don't need the unique schematic. It has a lower skill requirement and lower floor for usefulness. So if you prefer not to have to learn to use the grapple properly, or don't want to farm the unique schematic of the Emperor's wings, then this is the belt for you until you get the full suspensor. So it's hard to find a good use case for the planar belts, mostly because these belts in general are used for movement benefits. The fact that this one slows you down makes it a unique case. Slowing your fall isn't unique enough. You likely won't be swapping this in just to prevent fall damage, but if you are needing to stay stationary, mid-air, like say while you are building, then perhaps it could come in handy. The responsive belt, on the other hand, is actually meant for combat. It even says so in the description. And the responsive nature of it definitely seems to be a nice way to add a unique position to your fighting. Whether you're using it to avoid the person who brought a knife to a gunfight or playing peekaboo with your enemies, there are definitely some nuanced cases to use this. It certainly can help troopers with their death from above perk. But overall, the speed of the air movement with the other belts might have you continue to lean towards using those ones primarily while in combat. Alright, for the full suspensor belt, just like the Emperor's wings early on, the best use case for this one is everything. Once you unlock it, that is. This is the belt that you will primarily be using, eventually. Its massive power drain, though, will stop you from using it too early, until you have at least a Mark IV power pack. But once you do, this is the every use case belt. It's great for combat, great for traversal, has the most control over movement, and with the right belt, it has enough power to last pretty much any situation. The only time you might find yourself using a different belt is for those specific use combat scenarios as shown with the responsive belt. It would likely be more of a situation though where you are temporarily swapping it out, because this belt is just so useful you'll probably never leave home without it. And there may be instances where you prefer the Emperor's wings because you like to grapple your way across the map, and that airtime is just ridiculous with higher end power packs. The Emperor's wings are fun and still useful to a degree, but those higher power packs makes the full suspensor belt so good too that it basically makes you want to use it all the time. The last thing to note about the Emperor's wings is that the different tiers are supposed to equal different durabilities, but after some testing, I have not been able to notice much difference. The Mark II and III and IV all seem to drain slightly slower than the Mark I, but I couldn't see a difference between the 2, 3, or 4. This could be a bug or an error on my end, certainly, but the thing that's notable about this is farming anything but the Mark I is a pain, because it's the only one with an exclusive chest where it's guaranteed to be there. This is something you will definitely want to factor in when deciding if using the Emperor's wings later on is worth it. Farming the Mark II and up schematic can drain a lot of unnecessary time when you have other options. But that doesn't take away from the fact that farming the Mark I over and over and over is still probably viable, because the differences between the Mark I and the Mark IV in durability were pretty minimal.